Boom, 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 boom. Okay, that didn't work, but that's our music tonight. This is Plate and Ponder with Jen and Chris Fenton, and I am gonna go this solo, I think, unless Jen wants to chime in from the background. But we are here in Copenhagen, Denmark. Yes, the Danish. We are here. Well, we have a handful of people actually back in Manhattan Beach taking care of Flynn. So don't worry, Flynn is doing okay back in our house. I think they're probably using all our surfboards and everything else. Everything is all good there. But we are here on the other side of the world. We're in Copenhagen, Denmark. How cool is that? Now, if anybody has seen The Bear, we have. And if you know, one of the chefs, the pastry chef, did do a sort of a, what do you call it? Some sort of exchange with the Danish here in Copenhagen. And he lived on one of the houseboats on one of the canals. And what was really cool about it is Jennifer actually booked a day yesterday, the day we actually got in with jet lag, which was fantastic because it was, I think, a whopping 42 degrees, blowing, blistery, little cloudy, some rain. And it helped us get right through the jet lag because we actually sat on a boat that was open and went around the harbor. And we actually saw the boat, the houseboat, where our pastry chef from the Bear lived during those episodes. So that was fantastic. Now, I don't have great music to play during this episode, so we're going to keep this short. And we're also not going to do all the sound effects and all the high production quality stuff. It's going to be a little similar to the time when I drove from Amsterdam, New York, back to Albany Airport, talking and ranting and raving about a handful of things. Well, I'm going to do the same thing tonight. We are at Wednesday, the week of April 1. So this is not a April Fool's episode. This is just an episode to tide us over until Jennifer is fully back on radar and doing the episodes that we love her to do. And perhaps we'll even have some interesting guests. But at this moment, during a very big conflict that's going on in the Middle East, we happen to be still in 50 countries around the world. In fact, we've had various guests who have asked, hey, did we gain more or did we gain less markets because of what we're doing? Actually, no. The downloads in every market out of all 50 have continued to go upwards. So we thank everybody that's listening. And that's why I'm doing this solo, even though Jennifer is super busy tonight. We've had a lot of fun. We've been doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So let's kick it off with topic number one, okay? Iran, the Iran conflict. What the heck is going on there? I cannot tell. Jen cannot tell. We cannot really understand what is actually happening day to day because there's just so much propaganda going on back and forth. So we're not even going to take a political position. We're not going to take a position that says what's right and what's wrong. But I do find it absolutely fascinating that we cannot find out whether there is actually truly negotiations going on or whether there aren't. If there are negotiations going on, who is actually having those negotiations? What is going on with those negotiations? Is it somebody that can make decisions on the Iranian side? It seems like some of the messages are going through Pakistan. Some of the messages are going through, say, Jared Kushner on our side. What is exactly going on? Are we getting anywhere closer? We do know that the Strait of Hormuz continues to be closed for everybody except for the full allies of Iran. We know that there's Pakistani ships that have been getting through. We know there's a handful of China designated ships that are getting through. But we also know for the majority of all our allied nation friends and every other ship that has been stuck inside the Persian Gulf or outside the Arabian Sea wanting to get into the Persian Gulf, there has been no progress going on. So what do we do about that? Well, it seems as if the United States of America has decided to try to take care of all those missile silos, all those different, what do they call them? Essentially the drones and the various ballistic missiles and everything else that are coming out of the earth around the Strait of Hormuz. We've been trying to get those shut down so they can't do that anymore. But then we also have these crazy renegade boats that are from the Iranian Coast Guard or the Iranian Navy that are doing suicide missions into the side of various freighters. We have seemed to slow that down, but it still has not gotten to the point where we feel comfortable getting ships through from either our allied nations or our own. And on top of it, you do need to have insurance companies willing to insure this cargo that will get through, and it won't cause them to have to do payouts for essentially claims that are made versus supplies that are not delivered. So that's a very big issue in terms of economic problems. It's an economic warfare that Iran seems to be fighting quite well. The other thing is, we do seem to have a very big edge when it comes to air warfare over the Iranian state. We have definitely caused the Iranian retaliation against airborne vehicles from the United States and our allies essentially to be almost completely ineffective. But Iran still seems to have some ballistic missiles, some versions of drones, and various other things that they're shooting as shrapnel all around the Gulf region. How this is going to play out, very hard to tell. And when you're in Copenhagen, Denmark, you would expect, since we are, what, 4,000, 5,000 miles closer to all this activity, you would notice that people are talking about it, maybe perhaps anti American because of it. Oh, how about being in Copenhagen, Denmark? We happen to be in the country that has claims over Greenland or has been ruling over Greenland. Yet we haven't heard anything as Americans and blatant Americans in a lot of these restaurants, the hotels, various other places we go. We haven't heard any throwback about that. Oh, you're American. You guys are the ones that want Greenland from us. You're not friends with NATO. You guys are creating wars. We don't hear any of that. The people here are extremely friendly. And the people here are, quite frankly, pretty fun to hang out with. And for the most part, they really know their food. And they actually, for me, who doesn't like to schwitz or sweat, they do have a weather pattern that is very conducive to somebody that doesn't like to sweat and just likes to enjoy things, walk fast, run fast, work out, do whatever it is in the sunlight and not have sweat. I dig that. I probably imagine I was a really good Scandinavian or Danish Viking at one point. Probably really enjoyed being in the northern, is it the latitudes or the longitudes? I can't remember. But just enjoying the fact that it's nice and cool. And I love that. Anyway, that is Iran. Iran is something that hopefully we figure out soon. We draw a conclusion to it at some point that is considered successful for the West. We maintain the health and safety and dignity and the amazing, amazing abilities of our military to continue to be strong, safe, secure, and healthy to protect the vital interests of the United States of America, which means we do need to finish this war relatively quickly and move on into some next phase, which hopefully is creating a better security around the world. And I will say it is interesting being much closer to the conflict. Yes, we're not on top of it. Yes, we're not in the Middle East, but it doesn't seem like a lot of people are talking about it over here. And that's quite frankly really interesting to me. Anyway, let's go on to the next topic, which I think is really quite fascinating and relevant to where we are, is the incredible food in Denmark. If anybody has been to Copenhagen, you know there are lots of Michelin-star restaurants. There are lots of Michelin-star restaurants that happen to be focused on Danish food, Danish delicacies. And let me tell you, those aren't for the faint of heart. If you really love fishy fish, like herring, like mackerel, that kind of stuff, yes, Danish food is for you. But what's interesting is they also have these incredible Michelin stars for food that is not Danish, for food that is Italian, for food that is global, for food that's Vietnamese, for food that is Asian fusion, for food that hits a variety of different sectors and genres and palettes. It is unbelievable. Now, I will tell you the other part that's interesting is that Denmark is not on the euro. It's not on the US dollar either. It's got its own currency. And that currency, yeah, seems relatively favorable to the United States dollar. It's roughly 6.3 to 1. $1 the US gets 6.3 of the Danish currency. But that doesn't make anything cheaper. In fact, everything's more expensive here. And what's interesting is that when we did a tour with one of our tour guides on the harbor of Copenhagen, she actually told us she had that job not only as her primary source. In fact, it wasn't her primary source. She had a corporate job at one point that she was balancing with being a captain of a tour ship throughout the harbor of Copenhagen. She actually quit that corporate job, became a coach, and was combining that with the ability of driving this boat around for tourists, which really, on the days that are beautiful, is probably one of the most fun jobs you can imagine. You're out there, you're traveling this like beautiful coastline. Honestly, the harbor, which if anybody lives on harbors, whether you're in Tokyo, or actually I'll take Tokyo out and say Tokyo does the same thing. But if you're in Hong Kong, you're in Shanghai, you're in the Philippines, Manila, you're in Pittsburgh, you're in New Orleans, you're in New York City, wherever you are, for the most part, if you're on a harbor, that water is disgusting. Why is it disgusting? Because you have lots of large ships going in and out of that harbor. Who knows what are they allowing to leave those ships, whether it's sewage, whether it's bilge, whether it's whatever it is. But it's just really, really dirty. And then you have gasoline leaks and various other things that happen from ports. Harbors are just not a safe area if you want looking for safe water. But Copenhagen is something different. I noticed it when we were walking through the tourist sections of town, where lots of houseboats are docked up by the side, and you still look down and you see the bottom. You're talking about the bottom in some places that say 25 feet deep for the most part, maybe 10 feet deep. In fact, there's various local tourist attractions that are occurring at say 12 feet of water, and you can see it perfectly. It is incredible how there's sea life and there is clear water in the middle of a harbor with lots of boats, with lots of cruise ships, with military ships, you name it, because they have spent a lot of time trying to clean up their water, trying to make sure that the amount of runoff coming from a city of 650,000 people is not destroying the environment. Now, I'm not making any sort of green case, any sort of like, oh my God, we have to go totally to neutral, carbon neutral, or whatever it is, and we can't do this and can't do that because we got to protect the environment. No, I'm not making that case. What I am making the case for is I'm seeing Copenhagen have some of the best food in the world. I'm seeing lots of, by the way, skinny people, healthy people, people that look great, enjoying life, doing great things. I see beautiful architecture. I see a thriving economy. And this is all happening in an area where they are not polluting their harbor, where they're actually cleaning up their harbor, where they're not polluting their air, they're actually cleaning up their air. In fact, there is a waste to energy plant just outside of town, actually just past an area where various people live off the grid. Apparently, it used to be an old military fortitude of some sort of stronghold to keep whatever elements outside of the city that were threatening the city over the last several hundred years. When that went away, they actually allowed various, I guess, gypsies and others to live off the grid, build their own homes, essentially have their own sort of centralized government in that little area, and to thrive. They gave us the land and they're farming it, etc. But just beyond that is this huge group of smokestacks, and it turns out those smokestacks are burning waste to make into energy, but they're doing it as clean as possible. And one of the things that the architect decided to do in order to emphasize that process, was he actually built a ski slope that was built into the sides of these huge smokestacks that are probably, I don't know, 750 feet in the air. That ski slope goes all the way down to sea level, and it allows people to take a chairlift up to the top and ski down, a place where they are burning waste into energy. And apparently, according to our tour guide, she said that the reason the architect built something of that magnitude and of that symbolic nature was to make sure that people understood when they're outside doing things recreationally, when they're enjoying nature to its fullest, they have to realize there's always a cost to it. There's always a waste. So while they're out there, they see this smokestack, which is, by the way, burning waste energy in the most efficient manner possible. But it's reminding people that their waste is there. It's not zero. And the only way to get rid of it is to be really smart and innovative with it. And the way Denmark is doing it is in the most smart and innovative way possible, which is burning it in a very clean waste to energy plant that also happens to host a ski resort or a ski slope or whatever you want to call it. I found that really interesting. Anyway, onwards, let's talk about the airport here. Now, the airport, first of all, does not have TSA issues, but it is for a country of 630,000 people. Copenhagen actually hosts airlines from around the world going to a variety of different places. But as somebody who has really been upset at the way Los Angeles airport has been, LAX, and the way it is trying to manage this new development into the World Cup and into, say, the Olympics, it's been slow. It's been behind schedule. It has been really infuriating in a lot of ways. A lot of the places that you wanted to park no longer exist. Places where you thought you could sneak into the airport and get out of the airport no longer exist. There's a lot of different infrastructure issues that are super, super annoying, and a lot of things that make you want to believe that Los Angeles airport is as bad as it gets. Now, I am not going to give CPH Copenhagen Airport completely bad marks, nor will I do it with Los Angeles Airport. But what I will say is that Copenhagen Airport is nothing special. It obviously hosts a lot of airlines from around the world, somehow gets people efficiently out there around the world, but it's got 8 foot high ceilings or whatever it is, 9 foot high ceilings throughout. It's got extremely crowded interiors, and it seems like it's in need for a major overhaul. So I'm only making this statement and this essentially issue something that we're talking about on Plate and Ponder, so that a lot of our people who are listening to this, who have constantly crapped on Los Angeles Airport, say JFK, Newark, whatever it is that we tend to go in and out of as the worst in the world. Well, you know what? We're not the only ones. But that does not give us an excuse. That does not give us an answer for us not to try to improve. And thank goodness we are trying to at LAX. We're doing it in a very inefficient way, and I'm giving nobody great marks on it, but at least we're trying. I will say, Copenhagen, I think it's your turn to try too. And finally, let's talk about how great it is to travel, the blessing that it is. I got to tell you, there's nothing more interesting than be part of a war that I don't know exactly how to explain, don't know exactly whether I support it or not, don't know exactly how to talk about it without it being completely offensive. But the fact of the matter is, it seems to make us all believe the rest of the world is judging what Americans are by the policy that's coming out of Washington, D.C., or the different actions that are coming out of Washington, D.C. That is simply not the case. People do not look at us that way from outside the country, nor should we look at the way we look at, say, somebody from Denmark in a certain way because their government's not being supportive in terms of Greenland or whatever it is. So the bottom line is get out there, human contact. There is literally nothing better. There's no better anecdote for the tensions in the world. There's no better anecdote for the suspicions in the world. There's no better anecdote for the different misconceptions, the way you might think about things, the way you fear about things. When you actually touch and feel it and you go there and you actually have dialogue, it is very therapeutic. So I highly recommend everybody get out there, whether you can travel to Europe, or you can travel to Orange County, or you can travel to Bakersfield, or you can travel somewhere else. Travel, talk to people that don't talk the way you do, don't think the way you do, have different perspectives, and digest that and have that civil discourse that is so important for humanity. Because as I am learning, and as I learned every single time that Jen and I are on the road, actually living life to its fullest and doing what humans should do, which is experiencing as much as you can in the short time you're here, it's amazing. So, with that, I will say thank you for listening to Plate and Ponder Empty Nesting with Jen and Chris Fenton. I promise Jen will be back on the show sooner than you know. And we'll continue to report back as we're on this road trip for another couple days. And once again, we really appreciate it. Please follow, engage, download, enjoy, and review. And we'll be back. Till next time, thank you.